everyone. This is our February Legislative Action Committee meeting. So glad you're able to join with us. I'm Lisa Chapman, the Director of Public Policy for Michigan Coalition Against Homelessness. And together with our CEO, Eric Hufnagel, we're going to run through some state and federal things that are happening and actions that you can take on advocacy. So I first of all would like to welcome you.
I was asking about alternatives that would be more affordable, and Dad was like, I want to go to Cancun.
I'd like to invite you to mute yourself. I can hear somebody talking about something.
Yeah, so is Josh. Josh was like, oh my God, I've never been to Mexico.
All right, perfect. Thanks. Our agenda today, we have a guest speaker, Tricia Washburn from Nation Outside. So excited to have her with us today. She's going to talk about some of their advocacy efforts and what they do, and some legislation that they are leading in terms of our state for some great fair chance access to housing, which is a much needed legislation. So you'll hear more about that. Eric will lead us through the federal updates. I'll talk about a few state updates that we have. Just run through our finalized policy priorities for 2024. We have a few updates, and then we want to hear about
today's February 5th.
from you. Where do you come in? And I just want to remind everyone to mute. We're getting a little background noise, so anything that you can do, that would be great. Thank you. Don't worry if you don't catch all the links. We'll be sharing some in the chat, but we will send everything out afterwards along with the slides, and there'll be a recording of this meeting posted on our YouTube pretty soon. So you can relax and just listen, eat your lunch, whatever you do when you're on a call like this at noon. Thanks for being here. And it is my great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today. Tricia Washburn is with Nation Outside. She is the engagements specialist. And Tricia, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much for having me. Like she said, I'm Tricia Washburn, the engagement specialist with Nation Outside, the voice of the formerly incarcerated. And I'm just going to share a bit with you about my organization and what we do, and options to volunteer and be a member or donate. So Nation Outside is a grassroots organization made up of formerly incarcerated individuals. Our mission is to drive policy and practice reforms that build transformative systems of support for justice-impacted people in their communities. What that means is that we are on the back end of addressing the barriers to re-entry and advocating for change in the current systems in place. Some of these changes involve clean slate expungement, ban the box initiatives, and fair chance housing. Our vision is a society where communities are safe and vibrant, all people are treated with dignity and respect, and justice and fairness are available to everyone. Our goals are to understand and exercise our right to vote in Michigan, having a seat at the policy table to represent our own interests, understand and avail ourselves of existing opportunities to improve our economic stability, effectively advocate to eliminate barriers to stability and full restoration, and reduce stigma and prejudice and criminalization attached to a felony conviction. We have a growing base of over 7,000 directly impacted members and allies ready to take action in our 10 regional chambers spanning the state: Detroit, Flint, Lansing, Traverse City, Kalamazoo, Jackson, Grand Rapids, Oakland, and Washtenaw County. Our 10th chapter is our statewide women's chapter, specifically for women returning home after incarceration. So Nation Outside represents the over 2 million families impacted by the criminal legal system. We call ourselves the voice of the formerly incarcerated because collectively our staff has over 350 years of lived experience within state and federal correctional institutions. The foundation of our work at Nation Outside is about challenging stigma, breaking barriers, amplifying voices, and empowering communities. Nation Outside is a movement that uses community education, strategies, and civic engagement initiatives to inspire our members and the community to get involved in knowledgeable, sustainable, and socially just forms of advocacy to support currently and formerly incarcerated folks, their loved ones, and their communities in order to inspire and create real reform in the justice system. So what we do is we focus on collateral consequences of incarceration, having a criminal history. So our current advocacy and organizing initiatives include voting rights and jail-based voting. There are millions of people in Michigan with a criminal history and thousands of people in jail being incarcerated pre-trial who are voter eligible. And fair chance housing and housing access. Lack of housing is the great causal mechanism of poverty, incarceration, and recidivism. And without housing, we can't focus on employment, health, or social and emotional needs. And second chance employment is businesses need more workers more than ever, but restrictive hiring policies that deem people with criminal histories ineligible for jobs keep millions of people out of work. And this removes dollars from our neighborhoods, schools, and communities. So we push for second chance employment. Trauma-informed peer-led reentry is a program we're doing, and we know that we need to be successful in the community. So we just need the resources to help others. So reentry led by formerly incarcerated people offers a viable career entry path and allows us to use our expertise to empower our communities. So about the fair chance housing, I'll drop a link in the chat to show you our flyer with the barcode, the QR code that you can scan to sign on if you'd like, and also the link on our website for you to sign on. Fair Chance Housing Act is House Bill 4878. And what that is it's a bill that would require landlords to consider everything else in an applicant besides just the criminal history first. So they look at the ability to pay, credit, and you know, all the other factors. And then when they choose to make a conditional offer on who the best applicant is. And then once they make a conditional offer, then they can run a background check if they choose. And then when they run the background check, they can only consider charges that are within the last 365 days. The only charges that they can consider beyond 365 days is arson, human trafficking, and lifetime sex offender registry. If they see any of these charges, they would need to look further into the situation, get all the documentation and evidence, and give the applicant a chance to explain themselves, as well as provide proof of rehabilitation. And if they still deny the applicant solely based on the charge, the applicant has the right to file a discrimination complaint in the Attorney General's office. And then the Attorney General will investigate. And then if they find the landlord to be in violation of the Fair Chance Housing Act, then they will get a write-up for the first year. And if they do it again, from what I understand, it's a misdemeanor. So this bill was introduced by Rep. Ayash into the Committee of Economic Development and Small Business on June 28th, 2023. And we need to get it passed from the House to the Senate and then passed out to the Senate. So to do this, we are asking everyone who agrees to please call Joe Tate, and I can drop his phone number and email in the chat. If you can please talk to him and tell him to get this bill moved through and passed, that would be amazing. We also have a sign-on letter on our website that I can drop in the chat, as well as a QR code on our flyer that I can drop in the chat as well. So we just encourage help with that. And for getting involved with Nation Outside, you can always sign up to be a volunteer or just sign up to be a member and get our newsletter, or donate. You can always donate. And we have volunteers that do different things like work on advocacy, and it will ask you what your interests are, such as policy analysis, media relations, community organizing, public speaking, event planning, fundraising, graphic design, writing and editing, you know. Just let us know what your skills are when you fill out the application. And yeah, for anyone that's interested, they can come see me. Any questions or?
So Eric has a question, and then somebody was asking one in the chat to me. So Eric, you want to go first?
Sure, thanks. Thanks, Tricia. Appreciate you coming and talking about your organization and the legislation you're pursuing. I did have a question about the enforcement aspect here, and I think I heard you say that if it was there was a violation, you get basically one free pass, if you will, and then if it happens the next year, then there would be a misdemeanor. Can you talk to me about what that would actually look like with respect to the misdemeanor? Who would enforce that? Is that something that provides enough teeth in the legislation to ensure that indeed that is something that would be enforced and not just something that's put on the books, but is left up to the discretion of different entities to determine whether or not it's their role or priority to enforce?
Mm-hmm. So, what I was told in our training is that, that it says that they may get a misdemeanor, and what I was told by supervision is that the first time they do it, and within the first year, they get a write-up. So if they do it once, it's a write-up for like the first year, and then if they do it again, it's considered to go like deeper. And from what we understand, a misdemeanor. You can read the whole bill as well. And I can also drop that in the chat if you would like. It is also online as well.
Sure.
But as far as that, it's not been communicated with us in too much detail of how they're exactly going to enforce it. And so that would be a question that, we can further ask when we are at hearings, talking to representatives, how they're planning on enforcing it, if a landlord were to be in violation.
Yeah, good.
Trisha, oh, I can hop in. Hi, Trisha. This is Lisa.
Oh, great. Hey, Lisa. Yeah, you were in the training. Yes, go ahead.
So good to see you. Thank you.
You
That
too.
was a really incredible overview.
Thanks.
I can add just a little more about the enforcement. So if someone is found to be in violation, it's enforced through the Michigan Consumer Protection Act. So the Attorney General's office would be responsible for enforcing it. And so, there's a myriad of ways where she could, send a warning letter for a violation, etc. So, yeah, you can go through the administrative process with the Attorney General's office. And of course, you can also take it to court yourself. That's another option as well, because it would be a violation of the Consumer Protection Act.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Trisha.
Definitely. Thanks.
Appreciate it. And
Yeah.
Lisa Tenser's with your institute that's working with Nation Outside on this important legislation and other things. So
Yeah, and there's this one more thing that I didn't
Sure.
add. Sorry. Also, if the landlord does choose to rent to a person with a criminal history and the person ends up committing a crime on the property, the landlord is not held liable for that because they followed the Fair Chance Housing Act under this act. So that was another one that I wanted to tell you. All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, another question. Anna, do you have a question?
Yes, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, Trisha. Thank you for being here today. I personally want to connect outside of this later. But are you guys, so I heard you mention different cities in Michigan. Are you guys nationwide or just Michigan?
Just Michigan right now.
Okay. Are you yet familiar or connected with Time Done?
I'm done. Are they Michigan?
So yeah, Lisa said she'll connect us.
Great.
Time Done is a nationwide, it's part of the Alliance for Safety and Justice, and it's about collateral consequences and people living with past criminal convictions. They were part of the Clean Slate Act. They started in California and have branched out. We have a Michigan chapter, not fully built, but teamwork makes the dream work. And so you and Lisa said she can connect us. I definitely want to connect. Yes, Kevin Harris, Pastor Kevin Harris. Who is Kate? Hi, Kate. I actually, Pastor Kevin Harris is amazing. Yeah. I sent him. So yeah, we're gonna
say,
thank you.
We can connect all of y'all. Yeah, great. And Chad, everybody's chiming in. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys. And thank you. And again, I'm available after this if you want. Yeah, that'd be great. I can drop my contact in the chat.
Oh, beautiful. And Kate's with Safe and Just.
Awesome.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, Trisha.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Everyone who chimed in. Eric, over to you with federal updates.
Very good. I just needed to get to my mute. Thank you. Thank you again, Tricia, for sharing, and Lisa for weighing in on that for the answer. Glad to have you here and share this information. You can tell from the audience there's an interest, but it is information that a lot of us aren't aware of. So glad to have you here to share that, because it is something certainly that we'd like to see a large group of people get involved with and support. So let's talk federal updates. I'm only going to talk about the federal budget right now. I'm not going to talk about any other aspect at the federal level right now, because this is
Veterans Helping
real-
Veterans Heal. Dave Mosby can help you.
sorry, can make sure everybody is muted. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Talking about the budget, this is the elephant in the room, if you will. It's coming down to a crunch time. We've reported out over the last several months about how there has been finagling to try to reach agreements. And then we've had continuing resolutions that have been taking place multiple times. And it's coming to a head at this point. We need to be aware and vigilant with respect to how we address this. So what we do know is that HUD programs are currently funded through the continuing resolution. We know that that is set to expire March 1st. So there was a small window to get a lot done. And what happens at that point is that Congress will need to either finalize a spending budget or pass another continuing resolution or face a partial shutdown. At face value, none of those are appealing, particularly a continuing resolution, because we know we get further behind with every extension that is put in place, because there's no additional funding available, so we can't meet current needs, particularly with respect to vouchers. Next slide, please.
My ability to focus is disappearing.
Thank you. So the update after weeks of negotiations, congressional leaders have reached an agreement at the top line spending amounts. We've talked about that, I think, at the last meeting. All 12 appropriation bills, including the THUD bill, have the top line numbers. Spending levels aren't currently publicly available. They haven't talked about that, but one thing that we need to keep in mind is that there is discussion that the Department of Homeland Security is going to get a bump, so a significant increase. So there was something that was leaked about that. So we have some insider information about that. And what that then does is, let's put it in the analogy of a pie. We're talking about one pie when we talk about the budget, and then we talk about what the size of each slice of the pie will be for each of the departments we're talking about. If the Department of Homeland Security gets a bigger piece of the pie, that means that the remaining pie will be cut into smaller pieces, which means that that could have a direct impact on the THUD budget and all the work that we have done to ensure that there's adequate and appropriate funding made available for the programming that we support. Next slide, please. Okay, so that puts more pressure then on us to convey the importance of the funding that we have been advocating for. As proposed, neither the House nor the Senate draft THUD spending bills provide substantial enough increases to renew all of the housing choice vouchers. So when we look at what is being proposed through the House bill, we would lose 112,000 vouchers across the country. And under the Senate's bill, we would lose an estimated 80,000 vouchers. Those are pretty staggering numbers. Next slide, please. So there is the conversation going on still in the hallowed halls there at the U.S. Capitol. And really, we are also looking at the fact that we're seeing homelessness rates going up. We see that rents are going up. The forecasts are not good for us in the upcoming year. And what we're wanting to do is make sure that we can convey what's happening at the local level to make sure that there is some collective action being taken at the federal level. So the point that's being made here is that we know when we try to address issues head on through the COVID-19 pandemic, we realize that if indeed there was a cohesive plan to infuse the appropriate amount of resources, that indeed we could see a significant decrease in the number of people who are homeless. So homelessness is both solvable and preventable. And we want to be able to carry that message forward, that we know that it can make a difference. We have the experience with that, and that the resources are necessary for us to continue to pursue that. So make the appropriate investments. Next slide, please. So this is a slide we've popped up before. It's updated a little bit, but we need to have you get involved in taking action. So contacting your members of Congress is an imperative right now. We are at the crunch time, as the first heading in the first slide that I referred to talks about. We need to make sure that this is the time we are putting the pressure on, elevating the discussion about the appropriate resources necessary to combat homelessness through programs that we know work. So this is not a time to disinvest. So we're talking about funding all of the HCV program slots. We're talking about increased funding for housing operations and repairs. We're talking about additional funds for homeless assistance grants. We're talking about protecting funding for the eviction prevention grant program. And we're also talking about additional funds for the native housing through the House bill. Some very key pieces here that we think are really important. Next slide, please. So to do that, it's relatively simple for you. So you can do that in a couple of ways, really. One is contacting your elected official, so a member of the Michigan House, the members of the congressional delegation from Michigan. So you can email, you can call, you can send a letter if you want to, but there are some easy ways of just reaching out and passing along what you believe are priorities that they need to be including in the budget as action is going to be taken. Another thing that we haven't talked about very much in the past is not just simply you reaching out one-on-one emails, calls, but also the power of social media and amplifying messages. So you as an individual, as well as an organization that you may be affiliated with or work for, have the ability to include messaging in your social media platforms regarding the importance of taking appropriate action. As always, we just encourage the sharing of stories. That's where the rubber hits the road when we talk about the impact in communities, in districts of those elected officials, to understand exactly what is happening and what the impacts would be if they do not step up with the appropriate amount of funding to underwrite the programming that we know makes a difference in their districts. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as we've shown the last 3 or 4 meetings, this is a location on the National Low Income Housing Coalition website that you can visit that has more specific information about how you can get engaged, but there are some resources there to help you access your member of Congress, the contact information for you to be able to facilitate that communication. I really strongly encourage you to do that. Please access it, take a look. It doesn't take very long to do this, and this is a really, really important time for us to be doing that. So everyone you can reach out to will be impacted. The squeaky wheel is important, and hearing from you, even if it's a quick 15-second, 20-second, 30-second voicemail message that you may leave, or just a quick email message that you sent with some specific messaging is very, very important. It needs to be elevated. Next slide, please.
And Eric, if I could just
Yep.
jump in, this is Amy Stevenson, Micah's communication manager. I put this in the chat, but while we're on this topic, I post advocacy alerts a couple times throughout the week. There's usually a hashtag of the power of one, if you want to search by that, or even the words advocacy alert. And you are encouraged to repost those to your own social media platforms, then saving you the work. And there's right now about 35 people on this call. So if even everybody just did that once, and reach 2 other people, it would be a huge reach. So just please make sure you're following us on social media, and you are welcome to share and encouraged to share those posts each time you see them. Thanks.
Thank you, Amy, for saying that. And I apologize. I just realized that my camera was off the whole time I was speaking. Sorry for being so rude. I thought my camera was on, but I wasn't paying attention. So as Amy is saying, you have that opportunity to reach out that way based on some of the information that she is putting forth. But keep in mind, March 1st is the deadline. If they're going to reach an agreement, that means that there are only a few weeks for this action to take place. And that may seem like a lot of time for you to take some action, but it's really not. In a perfect world, they would not wait until the last minute to have these budgets put in place. Some of them may be agreed upon sooner than others in no particular sequential order. So we need to be having these conversations now and sharing that information now just to make sure we're not late in the game if indeed we want to be making a difference. We don't want to have a deal made internally without us having our voice made available. So please do something there. Last thing, I'm going to switch gears, save the date. I did lie. I am going to talk about this as well. The National Low Income Housing Coalition, as we reported at the last meeting, has its annual housing policy forum. It's a terrific conference to attend, just making the pitch for it if you're interested in attending. In conjunction with that, on the last day, there is also a Capitol Hill Day event that we will be engaged with there. Lisa is going to be going, and Asia from our staff will be attending. If you are able to go to the conference, or even if you want to fly in for the day to do Capitol Hill visits, please make plans for that. Reach out to Lisa if you have some interest in the Capitol Hill Day, but certainly you can go to the NLIHC website to get information about the policy forum. Great information, really would motivate you if you're able to attend. I think that's all I have for my slides. So I'm handing it off to Lisa, who has her camera on.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Nice to see you, even if it was brief. I just did want to also emphasize the National Low Income Housing Coalition. They always have great speakers. They encourage people to register soon because it's almost full if you are so inclined. And I know we have a couple folks who are on this call who are attending. We had a good delegation last year, and we had a great time advocating on the Hill. Trisha, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, how much does it cost for a person to go?
I think it's about $150 to register. They did have some discounts that were for people with lived experience. I believe, for advocates with lived experience, I believe that time frame has passed, but you can check further on their website. They always, because they're in Washington and they have great relationships, they always have really great policymakers and congressional people come. We had Marsha Fudge, who's the HUD secretary last year, and some legislators. They always have a great slate of folks.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Oh, it's 500. My bad. I don't know where I got 150.
That's okay. Thank you.
Low income folks were 100. Thank you, Amy.
Yep.
All right, next slide, please. We'll talk about some of the things that are going on at the state level. Our source of income protections legislation. We are waiting for the House Judiciary Committee to take it up. We have a sign-on letter that just, thank you, is posted in the chat, the link to that. Along with the Fair Chance Access to Housing legislation and our source of the source of income legislation, it's really important to demonstrate the depth and breadth of support that we have around the state from a variety of individuals and organizations. So if you can sign up, as you see on the left-hand side of this slide, Ashley, our intern, put together this great poster for us with all of the logos. It's really impactful when you're going in front of the legislature and the legislature to have them list all of the organizations that are in support of the legislation. It's very impactful. So I encourage you to do that to demonstrate your support. And also another action you can take in terms of advocacy is to reach out to your House representative. Trisha posted Joe Tate's contact information. He's also one that He's the Speaker of the House, so you could reach out to him and ask for all the housing related legislation to move. It would be great to have those scheduled for the various committees, because right now there's not a lot going on in the House because of the tie with the reps and the two special elections that are happening in April for those two vacant seats. Not a lot is going on right now. So this is a time where you could really engage in advocacy with your reps. Next slide, please. I want to talk about the budget process for fiscal year 24-25. Those of you that follow, or maybe you listened to the State of the State, was it last week? Yeah, I think it was just last week. No, 2 weeks ago. The governor called for a 1.4 billion investment to create or rehab 10,000 affordable housing units. So that was super exciting. We need to really advocate very strongly for additional resources. We know 10,000 units is great. We know that it will help, but we know that we have 190,000 deficit in terms of units for people at the very lowest income level. So we need to really raise our voices. So the Campaign to End Homelessness and the Interagency Council on Homelessness sent a letter to the governor. Let's go to the next slide and we'll talk about that a little bit further. So we sent a letter as part of the campaign to the governor with some suggestions and priorities for the budget for the 24-25 fiscal year. Those are include increasing funding for deep services in support of housing to the tune of 25 million annually. That would really support some of the people with the most vulnerabilities to enable them to stay in their housing. The other, one of the other elements was establishing a gap financing fund. As we know, it's difficult to develop supportive housing, permanent supportive housing. And so the ask is for $20 million annual appropriation so that some of the gaps, with the development costs can be bridged. The other element was to expand the availability of emergency shelter services to the tune of $2.5 million annually for families and others that don't have anywhere to go, and we want them to come inside. Next slide, please. So there were 6 asks. These are the final 3. To appropriate supplemental funding to support the shelter workforce, people who work in shelters, who are among the lowest paid. We know that nursing home staff and direct care staff in group homes got appropriations for wages in the last couple of years, and we'd love to see the shelter workforce get an increase as well. So that's $4.9 million is being advocated for, as well as the creation of, an ongoing permanent repair program for domestic violence shelters, youth shelters, and just general emergency shelters. DHHS put an ask out, I believe it was a little more than a year ago, and got about $70 million in requests. So we hope this will be an annual appropriation, and we're asking for $5 million for this year so that they can replace the windows and the boilers and keep everything up to code and have the accessibility features that they need. And then lastly, we're advocating and that the governor prioritize implementing robust tenant supports and protections, as well as supporting the legislation, but also creating an emergency rental assistance fund at the state level to the tune of $30 million annually. We know that we went through a lot of funding during the pandemic time with the SARA funding in Michigan. And unfortunately, that's gone. And Mich just stood up a $5 million fund. And, that didn't, there's so much need that it didn't go as far as it needs to. So we would really like to see something permanently that Michigan does and create an emergency rental assistance fund. So thanks for sharing those links out. what I want you to know about this letter and these 6 priorities is that we will be keeping our eyes open to see when the governor's proposed budget drops. Word has it, it should happen in the next couple weeks. And then we will be putting out very pointed information on what you can do in terms of advocacy with the legislature for inclusion of these items into the budget. And we want you to focus on the appropriations committees, both in the House and the Senate. And if you could share the links for those. We will be sending out more information soon with talking points and information about what you can specifically ask of your legislators who are involved in the appropriations subcommittees, because that's going to be really crucial over the next coming weeks and months. Last year, the governor signed the final budget in July, so that just gives you a sense of what the time frame is that we're working toward. Thank you, Ashley. All right, next slide, please. I want to let you know, if you haven't seen, that we are holding our 8th annual Homelessness Advocacy Day. This is a day where we all come together in Lansing and network and talk together and meet with our legislators about what we're advocating for in terms of all the legislation and budget priorities and policies that they can enact to make homelessness rare, brief, and one time, and to just assure a lot of tenant protections that need to be in place. So we're holding it on Tuesday, April 23rd this year. It's at Lansing Community College. I will say that registration is now live, so that is a live link if you want to register. It is $35, I believe, for an individual. We have a free registration for persons with lived experience, and there's other levels as well for our members, and so you'll see it on the site. I do want to say that we have 150 max for our space, so you might want to register soon. We are anticipating that we will fill the room, which would be lovely and amazing. And then also stay tuned, because we will be sharing information on our guest speakers very soon. Next slide, please. And I'm just going to make sure thanks. Okay, all the links are in there. Just want to thank you for input. Went through a couple, I think I attended 5 COC meetings. People weighed in on these these are our final priorities, but when they were in draft, we heard from you at our Legislative Action Committee call and various other opportunities for input. So we want to thank you. We got some great input and really drilled down, especially in the area of targeted, populations for increasing access to affordable housing for both seniors and youth and people with disabilities. It's super important to really be specific about what the needs are. We also added, I'm losing my place in my notes. Sorry, we added elements from the campaign priority letter as well, in terms of the shelter improvements that I talked about and the increasing wages of shelter staff. So these are all included into our 2024 policy priorities. And if you are going to be attending our advocacy day with us, we will be advocating for a lot of these priorities, and these translate into those, either the budget asks or the legislation asks. So we really are excited, and we will be doing a prep webinar. We will be doing talking points, so that if you're a new time advocate or a seasoned advocate, it'll be easy to go with your team and advocate for these important policies and bills that we really need to have enacted. Next slide, please. So now this is the time where we love to hear from you. So if there's anything that's happening in your community, any ordinances, any bills, any funding or policy that's happening locally or within your region, we would love to hear about it.
Hi there. Sorry. Thank you, Lisa, for introducing me. Sorry, I forgot to do that earlier. This is Lisa Tenser from the Vera Institute. I wanted to flag there's a hearing on housing discrimination put on by the Michigan Department of Civil Rights this Wednesday. And it's virtual. They're having like a series of them the whole year. So I think it's a really great opportunity to mobilize our people and to make sure that our voices are heard on, you know, various issues of housing discrimination. So I'll put there's a newsletter or a news article here in the chat if people want to share like on social media, etc. I think it's a good opportunity.
Thank you. Fabulous. Yes, that'll be a great forum. And just so you know, if the source of income protections legislation passes, the Michigan Department of Civil Rights would be the one that would implement enactment and enforcement of that and investigations if anyone's violated that. So they're very important. They play a key role in our state. So it would be great to participate in that. And if you have any, input on housing discrimination, if you've personally been involved or people that you support or work with that you know of, those firsthand personal stories are always so impactful. So thank you, Lisa. Anna, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, just sharing with the group, Kent County, the Kent County Sheriff's Department is continually criminalizing homelessness by pulling people over who have expired, their vehicle is illegal in some way, registration, insurance, title, they have no license, and half the people are homeless. I can't quote that as a statistic, but the others are in transition, in poverty, but they are adamant that you are a criminal breaking the law and you're not learning your lesson, which we all know is not the truth because it costs money. So it's getting bad, and I just wanted to kind of just share that because Kent County Sheriff's Department I've had 2 experiences in like 2 or 3 weeks now. So just putting it on, I guess, what's going on in my community. So
Thanks for letting us know. And that's just some of the issues that we're hearing about criminalization of people that are experiencing homelessness as well in communities. But thank you for flagging that, Anna. Anyone else? So Kimberly's asking about one single page with the list of the petitions. So Amy's saying that she'll share them out on the email update that she does after this. But yeah, she's going to put them on our website. It's great to be able to have them all in one spot. So thank you both. Anyone else? All right. I'll share a couple more Micah updates, and we have a monthly training coming up on Monday, February 12th. The title is Leading Change, How to Thrive in the New Normal. And Mitch Lindstrom from Guidehouse is doing this training. He is one of our Micah board members. And just knowing him, I know this training is going to be phenomenal. I know all of Allison's trainings that she organizes are phenomenal, but knowing Mitch myself personally, I'm sad that I'm going to miss this. So I'll have to catch it on the recording. But it's February 12th at 1 p.m., 1 to 2:30, I think, generally. And not to miss. This is a definite one you should attend. And I just wanted to announce also that this being an election year, we are once again going to be doing election-related work with voter education, voter registration, direct voter registration efforts, and hopefully partnering with a lot of you out there, our housing providers and homeless response system providers. We'll be sharing much more in the coming weeks and months, but we received in Our Homes, Our Votes grant again from our partners at National Low Income Housing Coalition. And so we're really excited to do that work along with candidate engagement. So I'll plant the seed right now to see if anyone wants to do any town halls. We could partner together. We would love to have you do that, as well as voter registration drives with us. So more to come, but I just wanted to soften the ground and let you know that you're going to be seeing a lot more from us doing that work. Next slide, please. Amy, do you want to talk about this?
Sure. Micah issued at the end of last year, excuse me, I have a cold, I apologize. Our impact report, just to give you a snapshot of what we accomplished in 2023 and equally important, what we plan on doing in 2024. Ashley will drop a copy of it in the link. I promise it's a quick scroll. It's not a 40-page, document, but often it's hard to see the full picture of what we're doing based on your exposure with us. And so this will kind of give you that at a glance, from training to DEI work to advocacy, etc. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. It's a great kind of roundup of everything that, the highlights of last year, and then, forecasting what we're seeing and what we're going to be working on this year. So thank you. Very nicely done. All right. As Amy mentioned, we're all over social media. So there's a lot of stuff that Amy shares, partner news, partner advocacy, policy updates. So please follow us and, join in the conversation, and let's advocate for all these important policies and legislation. Next slide, please. And that's it for us for this day. So a couple things we hope you do advocate for. As Eric mentioned, the federal budget, as well as stay tuned for hearing from us on the state budget. We'd love for you to join us in Washington with NLIHC, as well as all the other things that we shared today. So take care, everyone, and we'll be seeing you again soon. And if not, next month, we'll meet again March 4th.